year 2014 proved to be extremely monumental for the U.S. Air Forces. Not only was the regiment gearing up to enter the next-gen weapons systems, but it was also shaping up a new era of military rivalry with China, and the Pentagon has started to feel the aftershocks of the biggest looming threat, the 6th-gen fighter jet. First up, what is the latest Chinese military achievement? Within the Next Generation Air Dominance, or the NGAD program, the US wants to channel aerial dominance from the future, 2030 to be exact. And folks, that's how the idea of the 6th generation fighter jet was born. That's just not it though. The US Air Force aggressively sought to retire the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor to become the coolest and most badass kid on the block. Oh, that's just not it. Other than embedding sheer monstrosity, the 6th generation family of fighter systems also became one of the costliest pet projects ever. Yep, the Air Force Secretary didn't exactly roll out the actual figures, but the estimates are between $300 to $900 million per airframe. You heard that right. Outgunning your enemies doesn't come cheap. The more dollars you burn, the more chance you have to maintain air superiority until someone else decides to beat you in your own game. And by the looks of it, the power in the East has just become America's worst nightmare. In a shocking turn of events, China is emerging as the first ever owner of 6th generation fighter jets. And nope, this is just not another rumor on the internet. The concerning details came straight from the head of Air Combat Command, General Mark D. Kelly. How is China emerging as the 6th gen military leader? Take notes. This is the point in history when the US and China enter into the fiercest arms race of all time. Who emerges as the winner is bound to shape up the ruthlessness of air superiority. While speaking to the Air and Space Forces Association's Air, Space, and Cyber Conference, Kelly told the press that China is almost finished with the 6th generation manned fighter jet, which in many ways is the American dream. The audience wasn't ready for this bombshell. He told the audience, "I can tell you what's not happening. They're not having a debate over the relevance of 6th gen air dominance, and I can also tell you they're on track. And it only gets worse from here. Xi Jinping isn't just making any other aerial system, he's making it to be the best. Unbeatable even. The Chinese next-gen jet has far more accelerated and advanced instruments to process power and speed. So in other words, whoever is operating the jet has exponential control over the speed relevance and target specificity. Not to mention, these heavy fighter jets are also coming with integrated open mission systems. All things considered, China's progress is a piece of bad news for the US. There's a huge chance that Xi will be putting out his 6th gen tech before the Biden administration does some critical tests. Another concerning aspect of this relay race is China's increasingly strategic military alliance with Russia, which is busy triggering another European meltdown. Even then, both allies are busy bees when it comes to procuring weapons and enhancing their capacities. Without Putin's aggressive military support, China wouldn't have banked on Su-27 and Su-30s. Sure, you can pull up the receipts on Moscow's series of unfortunate events in Ukraine. On the outlook, the aggressor's military prowess looks like almost nothing in front of what the US and NATO have in store. But hey, Beijing has some real bank to spend on its defense mechanisms, and if that means building up lethal J-15s, who's stopping them? So why are the Su-35s so important for China? For the most part, the US might have found its only ray of hope in the technical failures of the Su-35 in Ukraine. Let's unpack this, shall we? Back in 2015, China became the first country to purchase 24 Su-35s from Russia. Even when the number of jets was pretty low, the US Air Force was on its tiptoes. These jets are 4.5 generation tech, but were they important instruments for China to gauge its impressive thrust vectoring engines? Absolutely. Oh, one important feature of the Russian invention is its 5th gen speed and avionics. But maybe, 7 years ago, it was too early and ambitious to predict that China's hoarding of the Su-35s is more strategic than ever. Experts now believe that the purchase was mostly made to find all the possibilities of major upgrades. So, China didn't spend millions of dollars on the fleet to just polish its aerial defense. It did so to build its own homegrown, faster and more fatal jets. In many ways, the new-gen systems could be inspired by the tech specifications of the Su-35. That was all fun and games until Ukraine was successfully able to shoot down the jet in Kharkiv due to its extremely low altitude. Would this detail look hopeful for the US Air Force? Sure. But it is also extremely premature to establish if China didn't see this problem coming, or if the fleet of Su-35s didn't help Xi to find an opening in an NGAD of his own. and it seems like General Kelly agrees. During the same media brief, the head of ACC admitted that the Russian flanker family has put the Chinese Air Force in a strategic position to morph a highly sophisticated tech of their own. With the success of J-15s, Beijing also became a step closer to appropriating NGAD in every way possible. The threat is so grave that the combo of Su-35s and J-15s gives Xi Jinping an upper hand to test the 6th gen earlier than the US. So, to mitigate the threat, the United States Air Force is pushing to complete the NGAD a month earlier than China. Did the US delay its counter-response? One important question here is if the US only recently gauged the real threat of China's advancement. That might not be the case, and the answer lies in the J-20 stealth fighter that the Air Force rolled out. If anything, Beijing was quite happy with this one. And why shouldn't it be? A 5th-generation jet that brought its owner undivided global attention is a landmark for any air defense and offense system. Perhaps this was the first indication that the power in the East would be pushing for integrating 6th-generation weaponry systems in their constants like Chengdu. But then again, even the possibility of a 2-seater J-20 seemed fuzzy in the media. Recently, General Kenneth Wilsbach, the head of Pacific Air Forces, called J-20 not worthy of losing your sleep over. Yep, by all means, China took that statement quite personally. We don't have official reports, but pretty sure General Kelly did give a quick reality check to General Wilsbach. And that's just not it. There's a lot of speculation about which country will be pulling out the next-gen tech to give a message of their military brutality to the world. Other than the US and China, war-making countries like France, Russia, Japan, and the UK are also interested in upgrading their aerial systems, yet the final round of the rumble is between Xi and Biden. Moving on, where does history lie? Even then, just purely on historical grounds, experts cite that China might be able to win this round. And it's just not about the social capital or budget constraints. The next detail will not shock you. It is just lying in plain sight. Believe it or not, if there's anything China is good at, it can upgrade to new gens far more readily than the US. Alright, we know what you're thinking. When hasn't the United States Air Force led innovation in the weapon systems? Well, it has. But the time frame between the initiation of the development program and the operational capability is awful at times. For the US, using the F-22 became a matter of 15 years. On the other hand, China was able to roll out its iconic J-20s for fighter services within 6 years. This incredible speed in building the defense system is the reason why Xi's government secured its strategic position in the South China Sea. As much as the US wants to beat China in the chess game they themselves started, massive weapons development programs remain a hurdle. After its snafu with the F-22s, you'd expect the Pentagon to learn a thing or two. But nope, even with their second 5th-gen fighter, F-35, the development took a sweet 15 years. And yes, the US Air Force had all the tricks and tips in their books to bank on, thanks to F-22's delayed but massive success. At this point, it is unfair to declare who's going to win the 6th-gen race. What we can concede is the fact that America's influence in weapons development might not be the best. As China has developed its self-reliance through the J-series, dynamics have changed drastically. Sure, the technological tussle is always going to be close and unpredictable. But as Putin and Xi grow closer in terms of the economic and military alliance, the US has more powerful enemies on its tail. And the future developments are going to be interesting, to say the least. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about how this will influence the industry. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more information.